Today we're doing simple quadratic equations and simple cubic equations. So to start off with, quadratic equations, we're only doing the simple ones so they look like this. The A and the C stand for numbers that will be in those spots. Alright, so I just want to show you just one thing here that will influence all our answers. If you have x squared equals a number, I want you to remember that that little 2 there is an indication that you will get two solutions. Now the way you get your two solutions is, well, you're always going to get rid of the squared when you want to solve the equation. So the opposite of squaring is square root. So you will square root the number, but that will only give you one answer on your calculator. To get the two answers, it's going to be plus and minus. There's your two answers, your positive answer and your negative answer. So let's see how it works here. We're solving these equations. So we're doing m squared equals 144. You want to get the m by itself to solve it. So we want to get rid of our squared by square rooting over here, like we normally do, square rooting 144. But we know that that tells you that you're going to get two solutions. One of them will be a positive and one will be a negative. So they get written in here, and now we're going to work it out. So you go m equals, get your calculator and do square root of 144, and you will get 12. It can only give you one answer, the calculator. Your two answers will be positive and negative 12. So if we want to separate those answers, we've got a positive 12 and a negative 12. There's your two answers. They will mark it correct if you leave it there, but I'm going the extra step here. Alright, so let's look at the next one. We're going to do what we normally do solving an equation, which would be to get rid of this divided by 2 first. So we're going to come over to the other side and times by the 2, and that will get you to there. So now we're getting rid of the square. Do the opposite of that and square root over here. And don't forget, that little square tells you you must get two answers. That's my abbreviation for the word solutions. So we're going to make sure we've got a plus and a minus in front of that square root. So your calculator can be used to get square root 16, which is 4. But we know there's a positive and a negative 4. So our answers are the positive 4 and the negative 4. Okay, so be very careful. There's a real hint in the marking of these. When you have a look at these questions in a test, it will say 2 marks, and you'll straight away know, oh, there's two answers to this. Okay, so it's a bit of a hint. If you end up with just one answer, you're only going to get 1 mark out of 2. All right, so going to the next one, we're getting rid of our times 8 first. Come over to the other side and divide by 8. Work that out and you get 5. Now, we're getting rid of our squared, so we're coming over here to square root. Don't forget what you're doing. You've got to get two answers, a positive and a negative. Don't know why I left that much room. Don't need that line, do we? So the answers are minus 5 and positive 5. Doesn't matter which order you write those in, that's up to you. All right, now the next question is asking you to give it to a decimal place. So there's a hint there that your answer is not going to give you a nice whole number. You will be using your calculator to get a decimal here. So let's see what happens. We're getting rid of our times 6 to start with by coming over here and dividing by 6. Okay, and I'm just going to see what that gives me if I put that in the calculator. You don't have to put it in now, but I'm going to just to see what it gives me. 84 over 6. Okay, it does give me a whole number of 14. Alright, so now we're getting rid of our squared here. We're going to square root the other side. What else have I got to put in? What have I forgotten? Yep, it's the plus and minus. Right, you've got to get your two answers. Okay, so now we're going to have plus or minus. Now let's see what the calculator gives us here for square root 14. So we'll square root 14 and we get this answer here. Write it all down, the whole thing. Okay, now we're going to 1 decimal place here. So you can round off to 1 decimal place. That's less than 5, so we're keeping that 7. And we've got 2 answers. I haven't left much room here, but I'm going to write them both down. Positive 3.7 and minus 3.7. Okay, there's your 2 answers to 1 decimal place. So as I said, if you see that rounding being asked in the question, then you are going to be getting a decimal that needs rounding. That means we will be using our calculator. All right, now this next question says, does 9w squared on 2 minus 1 equals 1 have solutions? If so, how many? Well, you're not going to know until you start to do the question. So let's solve it. We'll get rid of this first. So don't try and jump ahead and guess what's going to happen. Just do the question. All right, now we're going to get rid of our divided by 2 down here. Come to the other side and times by it. And that gives us 9w squared equals 4. All right, now once you get to there, all right, so we're going to get rid of our 9 now. So we're left with w squared equals 4 over 9. All right, now be careful with this question. All right, so we're getting w equals, we're square rooting, and we know we've got 2 answers, or it looks like we will, of 4/9. Now, I just want to see what happens if we put this in the calculator, because I might need to talk to you a bit more about this one. So we're going to square root. So we're going to square root, and then we want the fraction key pressed. I'm going to put 4 over 9. I just want to see what it gives us. So we're square rooting 4/9. Press equals, oh, it does. Okay, so you get 2/3 as the answer. It gives you that nice fraction that we should have got. And, well, we don't really need to actually solve the rest of it because the question says, does it have solutions and how many? So, yes, it does have solutions. We've got the answer. And how many does it have? 2, positive and negative. So, therefore, you can just say it has 2 solutions. Okay, all that working is part of your reasoning, so you've got to show it all. All right, now the next part of the lesson is simple cubic equations. So, same thing, but instead of a squared here, we've got a cubed. So this is what you need to know. If you've got x cubed equals a number, you know that you're going to do the opposite of cubing, which is cube rooting, little 3 there. Okay, and then you will get 1 answer. Okay, you're not going to get 2 answers. There's no little 2 up there to tell you you're going to get 2 answers. It's a 3. That doesn't mean you're getting 3 answers because we've only got a positive and a negative, don't we? All right, now, if we extend it a bit further, even though we're only doing quadratics and cubics, I'm going to extend it a little bit further because this is important later on. When you get to year 11, you'll be doing a lot of work with polynomials and this becomes important. So, if you have x to an even power, like 2, x squared, then you're going to end up with 2 solutions, a positive and a negative. If you have x to an odd power, like an x cubed, a 3 up there, you will end up with 1 answer. Now, that will apply to anything. So, if I give you x to the power of 250, that's even, you know it's going to have 2 solutions. If I give you x to the power of 149, that's an odd number, you know it's only going to have 1 solution. All right, so it's only 1 or 2 we're looking at the moment. There is a possibility of getting no solutions. What would have to happen there? All right, that's something for another day. We'll think about that later. Okay, so let's just come over here and see if we can do the rest of these questions, all to do with cubics. All right, so looking up the top here, we're solving. We know we're getting rid of the cubed by doing the opposite operation, which is cube rooting. So, keep your R there. do the opposite, cube root of number 1. And you can do that on your calculator. When you're doing the cube root on your calculator, hopefully you all know where that key is. Let's have a look. All right, so this is your square root button here, right? But if you press Shift square root, it comes up like that. That's the cube root. So you just got to press Shift before square root and you'll get that. So if you cube root 1, you will end up with the answer 1. And there it is, one answer. There's no need for any plus or minus or anything in front of these because we only have one answer and the calculator can give you that one answer. All right, let's look at the next one. Getting rid of the cubed, we're cube rooting, negative 27. Yes, that's how it's written. So you just go to your calculator, press in exactly what it says, cube root, negative 27, and then press equals, negative 3. It'll give you the answer straight off. There's only one answer, so we're not fiddling around with this at all. All right, next one. Just do what we normally do. We're getting rid of that divided by 2. Come to the other side, times by 2. Work that out. Okay, now we're getting rid of our cubed. Come to the other side and we're cube rooting. 216. All right, what's that going to give us? So let's go to the calculator. You can press it in yourself now. We're doing cube root. Don't forget it's Shift square root to get cube root up. 216 equals, yep, gives you a nice answer of 6. So m equals 6 is your one answer. All right, let's look at the next one. We're going to jump down to here. So how do we get rid of this times minus 6? Come over to the other side and divide by minus 6. Okay, what does that give us? Go to your calculator fraction key, press in 40 over minus 6, and it should give you minus 20 over 3, I think. All right, now we're getting rid of our cubed. Come to the other side and cube root of minus 20 over 3. Now, let's just see what the calculator does here. Probably nothing. It's not a very nice question, is it? So we're doing, oops. Okay, so we're doing Shift square root, which brings up cube root. Then we're doing minus fraction key, 20 over 3. 20 down arrow 3, press equals. Whoa, see what it gives us? I am not writing that down. Okay, so when a question asks for you to solve, it always means exactly. It always means exactly. So sometimes if it doesn't work out to be a nice number like these did, it means that we are going to be in surd form, which means we are leaving the square root or the cube root. Okay, so we're going to leave that answer like that because I didn't like the answer. That's it. Okay, if they want a decimal, they'll say so in the question. It will say write as a decimal, correct to so many decimal places, or correct to so many significant figures. They didn't say that, they just said solve. We're going to write it exactly in surd form. If you write down that big long decimal, I'll mark you wrong. Okay, we're writing that down as it is. Okay, so let's have a look at the next question. We're going to be getting rid of the minus 4. Now I'm throwing in a different one here because I've got a power of 5, but we'll deal with it as we come to it. Okay, so we're dividing by minus 4. Make sure you write it as a fraction doing the division. All right, if you do that on your calculator, it is going to give you 36. So far it's a nice number. All right, now have a look at the power. It's odd. Odd powers only have one answer, one solution. So we can keep going. We're only going to have one answer. So what do? Opposite of power of 5 is 5th root of 36. Now how do you do that on a calculator to see if we've got a messy answer or not? Let's have a look. All right, so the only thing that your square root button can do is the square roots and the cube roots. It can't do any other roots. So if you have a look over here, we have a button that says x to the power of, and there's a square there. That's for all powers. So I can do 6 to the power of 9 and get that answer. You can do any power with that button. And if you do shift, you can do any root with that button. So I want to do the 5th root of 36. So I'm going to do it like this, 5. Then I'm going to do shift, the power button, and see how it looks like the 5th root now. So now you can press in 36, press equals, and it gives you that messy answer. I don't like messy answers, so we're not going to give that. That's our answer, we're finishing there. Now let's look at the next question. See how it says decimal here, like we had over there? So we know we're going to get a messy answer, but that's okay because they want that, all right? But if it just says solve, we're writing it exactly. All right, so we're going to get rid of our cubed, come over and do the opposite operation, which is cube root of minus 420. All right, now, this is telling you it's okay to have a messy decimal, so let's work it out. All right, so we're doing cube root. So we're going to do shift, square root, and that brings up cube root. Then we're pressing minus 420 and press equals, and we're writing it down. We're okay to have that decimal this time. So it's minus 7 point, keep writing. Okay, and it's 1 decimal place they want, so we're rounding off to 1 decimal place. And that means because of that 8, we're going up to 5 here. There's your answer to 1 decimal place. Okay, so just be careful with these questions. Read the question carefully. Solve means it has to be exact. If your calculator's giving you a messy decimal, you stop the line before. If it mentions the word decimal in the question, feel free to give that decimal and do the rounding they've asked. Okay, so good luck with your homework. Practice, practice, practice.